Hello and welcome back to the Complicated Kids podcast. I am your host, Gabrielle Nicolay, and today I'm joined by Cai Graham. Cai, welcome.
Thank you so much. It's lovely to be here, Gabrielle. Thank you.
I'm delighted to have you. I want you to tell the good people a little bit about who you are and what you do for people.
That's sure thing. Well, you might have noticed that I'm sort of slightly different location than where many of your listeners will be. I'm based in the UK. I am a family anxiety specialist, really focusing on teens and sort of 20-somethings. And I've been doing this for 10, 11 years. I sort of have been a chameleon. So I was in all sorts of other areas, sort of photography and IT and blah, but now I'm focusing on this. And that's based on my training as an NLP practitioner, master practitioner. That's neuro-linguistic programming for those that haven't heard it before, which is basically sorting out the wiring in your head so you can sort of get sort of better results, because we're all wired a little bit differently, aren't we? And that's no bad thing, but sometimes our thought patterns and our behaviors don't sort of serve us as best they can, and hence that's why I focus on anxiety. And it's helping really sort of from a coaching point of view, helping young people sort of work out where they're wanting to go, where they're heading, rather than, oh, life's treated me really bad and this is why I am what I am. No, not really very interested with respect. Sorry, that's not my ballpark. My ballpark is to look at today being sort of day zero, and let's get you to a brighter future, anxiety free. And though having said that, many of my talks about anxiety being your friend, we don't want to get rid of it altogether.
Start there. Okay, now, so I love this already. So anxiety, feeling anxious.
Yeah.
First of all, let's define our terms. What is the difference between anxiety and worry and fear, if there is one?
Okay, I suppose they're all sort of fairly broad brush statements, and I think the sort of thing is sort of worry can be a little bit sort of less serious, the right word? I don't know, but sort of, you know, slightly more lower grade. And fear can, you know, is probably, well, it depends what you're fearful of, doesn't it? But I tell you, I sort of spin it a different way, and I look at the difference between anxiety, let's say an anxiety attack, and a panic attack. And anxiety seems to be a sort of something that's slightly more ongoing, slightly more sort of rolling, that it's sort of, it's generally let's say if we've got a young person that is sort of has sort of generalized anxiety about sort of, you know, going to school, they might be sort of slightly concerned about friendships or how they're going to perform in class, or that sort of, you know, and this is sort of something that bubbles on for quite a long time. And so they might have a good Monday but a not so good Tuesday, or they might sort of, you know, Wednesdays might be bad because it's sports or whatever. And there's sort of something, just it seems to be that their lack of balance is sort of on a rolling boil. Panic is where it bang comes out of the blue, and it's, you know, and it's sort of like, I often say, hits you around the face like a wet fish, and it's sort of, oh my goodness, where on earth has that come from? And that is, you know, and sometimes it sort of feels a lot more sort of powerful, but it's also short term. Whereas anxiety for many people can last sort of, you know, quite a while. And sort of some kids sort of say, oh no, I had a really bad start to Monday and it went on for the rest of the day. That's more anxiety, whereas a panic attack comes in and goes out, and it sort of leaves you a bit sort of shaken, but it's sort of business as usual after that. Does that make sense?
Makes sense to me perfectly. And actually the way that I would start to think about it is that the way you're describing it strikes me as anxiety is kind of this low hum of dysregulation.
Absolutely.
That lurks pretty much at all times. It's if you've read any Dan Siegel, who is a pediatrician, neurodevelopmental specialist here in the US, he's in California. He has this hand brain model.
Yes.
Where your fingers are the thing covering. And so it's kind of a lid that's half flipped all the time, is an anxious brain.
Yeah.
And so at any moment it could go, right?
Yeah.
The thing could blow. And so I hear what you're saying, right? This is like low key kind of ruminating worry. And then any one thing in the environment is going to sort of maybe toss you off your game completely, or maybe you're just going to stay there and it's fine and it's okay. But how could anxiety possibly be anybody's friend? Can we just go there first?
Well, anxiety is designed to keep us safe. Anxiety is from, the caveman times, was basically sort of, just hang on a minute, buddy. You got to watch out for those saber-toothed tigers there. So it stops us sort of glibly, sort of walking into the lion's den, so to speak. It stops us walking under a number 74 bus. It stops us putting our hand in the flame. It's saying, I need to keep you safe. I need to make sure that you are going to, sort of live to see another day. And so please, will you listen to me? And I'll tell you what, if you don't listen to me, I'm going to make these feelings of disquiet get a little bit louder and a little bit sort of more uncomfortable. And that's what's really happened, because to be honest, there are not very many saber-toothed tigers sort of walking around the block at the minute. But what's happened is that our mind has got its knickers in a twist, and it is permanently looking for those saber-toothed tigers, and it is exhausting, and it is hard work. And, as you sort of say, it's Dan Siegel's sort of, ready to flip my lid at any time. We are permanently on high alert. And what we need to do is we need to train that brain to go, oh, hang on a minute. This actually isn't life-threatening. So yes, the number 74 bus is life-threatening, but maybe a geography test isn't. And so what we have, or public speaking, or inviting someone on a date, or whatever it is, that's not life-threatening. And so what we need to do is we need to pull the reins in and go, do you know what? Not everything has to be urgent. Not everything has to be sort of reacted towards. It's just a little way of understanding that, okay, yes, I'm feeling a little bit uncomfortable, but I'm gonna live through it. I'll be safe. I'll be okay. But our brains are sort of so wired to, be it dopamine, be it the cortisol, there's so much going on in this fast-paced world of ours that we sometimes can't find the off switch, and that's what we need to do. So anxiety is there to keep us safe, and we need to, when people, sort of parents, come to me and say, please, will you help my son? He's got anxiety. Will you get rid of it? And I go, I'm not the right person for you. I will not get rid of anxiety. What I will do is teach you how to recognize the signs and to realize that, yes, this is perfectly normal, and to understand that actually, yeah, we do need to feel a little bit anxious sometimes, even if we're talking about exams. If we feel a little bit on edge, that's to just keep us on our A game. So we don't want to be this sort of, this boring and balanced automaton the whole time. We need to be able to recognize what our body and our mind is trying to tell us. So anxiety isn't always a bad thing.
So interesting. I have several thoughts. One is, I so appreciate what you're saying, right? Anxiety exists. It's there. And so trying to avoid it or push it away, we know what happens, right? What we resist persists, and it will get worse. What I hear you saying, and I'm going to ask you about the how in a second, just a little bit of the how, but what I hear you saying is, no, anxiety, hello, I see you, I hear you. And by the way, the number 74 bus is 3 blocks away. So
absolutely,
cool your jets. We're okay. We're safe. And I think we are, maybe have never been in the practice, I don't know, of telling ourselves that we are okay. I find that there's this, and maybe this is Western culture, right? That we have this kind of narrative of, I have to be better. I have to do better. I have to do more. I have to be okay. And I'm supposed to be okay at the same time. While I'm constantly getting on my own case, I have to be okay.
Yeah.
And what I hear you saying is, yeah, sometimes it's not okay. And that's normal and fine.
And I think the thing is that anxiety and negative emotions and whatever get a really bad press because you have to be happy, and you have to be glad, and you have to be joyous, and you have to be positive. And no, we are on this earth to experience the life-rich tapestry of what's going on. And part of that is feeling uncomfortable. I remember a long time ago, a coach sort of said to me, and I was going, my productivity is down, or I'm doing this, or I'm doing that. And she said, no, just stop. She said, I want you to be comfortable with feeling uncomfortable. And I just went, I don't know if I want to do that. How do I? No. And actually, she's quite right. It was just be comfortable but with being uncomfortable. And it's acknowledging that, I mean, yes, we can feel anxious, yes, we can feel worried, yes, we can feel fearful, we can also feel joyous and happy, but we've got to, we can feel jealous and embarrassed. That's what all these emotions are for. That's why they've got all these wretched emojis, because these emotions exist. And so by trying to cut them out, we're doing ourselves a disservice, and we're on a hiding to nothing.
I mean, I think this is a very interesting point. These emojis exist for a reason. If that's not the truth of technology really coming along with the human experience, that's funny. Embarrassed is an emotion that most people, myself included, by the way, would really rather not ever experience. And yet,
yes,
and yet, right? If the worst thing that's going to happen to us is that we're going to feel embarrassed, and that is what is preventing us from achieving some goal that we are setting out to achieve, then is that, maybe the question is that worth the price of admission, right? Am I willing to feel embarrassed in order to achieve something that I would like to achieve, or do something that, that I would like to do?
Embarrassment, it makes your toes curl, doesn't it? And yet I think the thing is that I the way I try and get around that is to just get that little voice in my head, and I just say, would you just get over yourself? Because as soon as we are able to laugh at ourselves, as soon as we are able to celebrate the fact that we're not blimmin' perfect, and nor should we be, and actually this is for the parents to pay attention, because you are role modeling behavior for your children, I hasten to add. So we need to actually just lighten up a little, and to give ourselves a bit of grace, and to go, do you know what? Yeah, we can mess up, and we do mess up, and the sky's not going to fall in. And I think the thing is to realize, what is the worst that can happen? Now, if we are in a life-threatening situation, then we need to sort of, pay a bit more attention. But if we mess up on, I don't know, a podcast, or if we mess up sort of writing an email, or this happens, and that's okay. Because I tell you what, I'm sort of quite sort of prolific on social media, and I've got to the stage now where many of my broadcasts are done in bed in my pajamas. And the first one I did, it was like, oh my gosh, what are people going to say? And it's, get over yourself, because it was in the middle of COVID and something had happened, and I needed to talk about it. And so I thought, well, I'm not going to put my lippy back on. I'm just sitting here, and I just thought, get over yourself. And the thing is, what we have to remember is, it's not about us, especially on social media. It's not really about us. The thing is if you can get your message across, and if you do mess up, that's okay. And if you feel embarrassed, that's okay. But we just need to come to life with a bit of fun, a bit of flexibility, and just sort of lightening up a little.
But it's so interesting, Cai, because of the families that we see, and certainly the complicated kids, right, that we're talking about on this podcast so often. They have often parents who are, if they have anxiety, the kids, often the parents do themselves, right? And parents are modeling, and kids pay way more attention to our actions than to our
100%.
words. So maybe we're telling kids it's okay to mess up, but if we send an email to the boss that had a typo in it, and now we're ruminating and talking about it for another hour, or not sending it because we're tweaking it for just so, and needing it to be perfect and all of this, and we're getting on our own case for that typo, because this happened to me too, take to create something and goes out with a typo, and you think, oh, and there was certainly a time
failed.
when, yes, I failed. And again, some of this is just how we're taught, and this is generations upon generations, we're taught to talk to ourselves as if we're garbage. And
well, that's the thing.
We wouldn't talk to our worst enemy the way we talk to ourselves.
And I think one thing that is worth pointing out here is anxiety is a learned behavior, or it's a learned emotion, or whatever you want to call it. It is learned. When we are born and when we are 3 months old, in 99.99% of the cases, we are not anxious. I mean, we might be a bit grumpy, we might be dirty, we might need our diaper changed, we might need fed, watered, whatever, we might feel, but we are not anxious. And what happened, you have a toddler and they sort of fall down and they sort of don't sort of go, oh, well, I can't do this walking lark. That's me. I'm rubbish at this. They sort of adjust the sails. They get up and they, now sometimes the sort of parents go, oh, no. And then suddenly the child's going, but all of this is learnt from the parents. So when I see anxious sort of kids, bet my bottom dollar that you can see what's behind all that, and it might not be the parent. Okay, it could be a sibling, it could be a grandparent, it could be a teacher, but there is a significant adult in the child's life who has modeled that behavior for that child to learn. So it's worth sort of saying to parents, yes, just if you are a worrier or if you are fearful yourself, please just remember how you're projecting your fears and your emotions, because we've got little sponges out there that are pulling it all in. And our kids very rarely listen to what we say, but they definitely pay attention to what we do.
They do. And they receive for lack of a better term, our energetic transmissions as well. I will say, I'm going to soften I have to soften what you've said, because anxiety being a learned behavior, yes, and there's a receiving nervous system in the child, right?
Yes.
And so nervous systems are constantly playing off of each other. And so I 100% agree with you. When we've got a parent who is signaling a lot of anxiety, and we've got a nervous system in the child that's especially receptive to that, child's nervous system is going to learn very quickly what works and doesn't work with this particular adult. And so would you agree that's what we're talking about here? It's
totally.
Right? I'm not putting my anxiety on you. I am displaying my anxiety, and you are soaking it up because you are wired to receive.
Yes, absolutely, 100%. But also, and I sort of said it's learned. The bonus and the gold here, before all parents will go, oh, well, I'm going to hell in a handcart, is to realize that actually, if it's learned, it can be unlearned. And so that's the important thing. So a lot of sort of parents will go, oh, well, I've damaged my child for it. No, you haven't. No. All of this is sort of figure outable. All of this can be sort of sorted. And, it's just being slightly mindful to the audience that you're playing to. And so, it's helping parents to sort of, we sort of talked about embarrassment a tiny bit and sort of things like that. I remember as my kids were sort of growing up, they're now 28 and 30, but so many times I would sort of sit there when they were in the bath going, oh, I'm so sorry, mummy was very grumpy, or I'm so sorry, mummy was, and explaining to our kids that I think that Jack Canfield sort of said there's no such thing as failure, it's only feedback. And I think that's so important, is getting our kids to realize that, yes, that we might have once been their heroes, but we are fallible, and that's okay. And they can mess up, and that's okay. And so just learning that, sort of with anxiety, and it's very important for kids and adults to understand that just because you feel anxious and you have anxiety at some point, it doesn't mean you're broken. It doesn't mean that you're going to be like this forever. It means that, okay, let's pay attention. Let's realize that there are no sort of saber-toothed tigers out there, and how can we adjust our sails and just move forward in a more positive way of operating. There's quite a lot to unpack there, wasn't there?
It was so much. Well, so my next question is sort of as an approach, and different people have different ways of doing this. Would you say that you have a more cognitive based approach or a more unconscious mind, to throw a little NLP terms at you, approach to dealing with this anxiety, right? If we're going to be acknowledging anxiety, talking to anxiety,
Yep.
is it a cognitive override that you're talking about, or are you using other tools as well?
I think the thing is that when we're talking about the brain and we're talking about flipping the lid, when we've flipped our lid, when we have got anxiety, you try telling someone who's either having an anxiety attack or a panic attack to calm down. They can't hear you. They
literally can't hear you. They cannot hear speech frequencies.
They can't process, so calm down, you'll be fine. And whether or not it's someone else's voice or your internal voice, it doesn't work because you've flipped your lid, the red mist has come down or whatever. So there's no rhyme or reason to, and the cognitive part is probably talking a lot of sense, but the processing part is just gone out the window. Thank you very much. Yep. So no. Is my answer to that is sort of that's helpful in the build up, but when the lids flip, not so much. So it's very much, and this is a way of talking to are we being recorded? I know orderly, but are we
yes, the video will appear on YouTube as well.
Yeah. Right, this is the unconscious mind. This is the unconscious mind. It's the reptilian part of the brain. To anyone that's just listening, I've got a little a frog sort of on the finger puppet. And here's the one that is permanent. He's actually the amygdala, but he's looking for the saber-toothed tigers. And suddenly something's happened and he's reacting to this saber-toothed tiger. He doesn't understand the language, as we've just said, but what he does read, what he does is all those physical signs of the hormones and the sort of cortisol levels and the serotonins. He sort of reads that a hell of a lot better. And so what we need to do is we need to speak his language. It's not French, Japanese, English. It's none of that. It's breath work. And so what we do is we learn to breathe. Well, come on, Kai, we all know. Yeah. Better and more productively. And there is, go and Google it, and you'll be here until the cows come home. But it's just learning to speak to your reptilian part of the brain, speak to the bit that's having a hissy fit, going, saber-toothed tiger, what am I going to do? And the way we do that is we breathe. Now you could do box breathing, which is breathe in for 4 and pause, and breathe out for 4 and pause. And actually, to be honest, this really only takes about a minute, because what happens is the body stops pumping the adrenaline and it goes, oh, hang on a minute, they're calming down a bit. Oh, I might just give them a bit of serotonin instead. The cortisol levels are slowly coming down. So you can, there are so many different sort of breathing techniques, but this breath work is the language that this chappie, the amygdala in our head is receptive to. And so it just calms everything down. And then our body starts feeling, whenever I just even mention box breathing, he's so programmed, I can sort of feel myself calming down.
You just did it right now. And for anybody who's listening, I want you to maybe go back 30, 40, 45 seconds and notice the change in the energy of this conversation. Because what you did, Kai, and I'm sure maybe you did it consciously, maybe you did it unconsciously.
I'm aware that it happens now. Yeah.
You brought your voice lower. You started speaking more slowly, and you started taking deeper breaths. And we were on a very energetic exchange.
We were.
Because we are both very, very passionate and interested about this subject. And as soon as you brought in this awareness and needing to talk to your amygdala, which is a nonverbal part of your brain, you went low and slow.
Yeah.
And we take a breath, and the energy has completely shifted here. And so if anybody is doubting that this is a thing, just rewind a minute or so and note the difference.
Yeah. And what I would like to say is, breath work is so important. I mean, it is the sort of it is the main sort of technique if you guys listening are struggling with anxiety to practice. But I do mean practice, because this is something that you need to be able to do at the drop of a hat. It is something that needs to be second nature. So I want you to be practicing box breathing, 4-7-8 breath work, color breath, you name it. There's loads of different ones out there. And I want you to be able to practice that when things are going well. Now, I sort of teach this to a lot of people. I share it with a lot of people. So as soon as my head hears box breathing, it goes, oh, we're about to have a holiday. Oh, great. Let's just calm down. That's cool. And my body knows that. I want your body to know that. I want your body to sort of, so that it's second nature. So when you flip your lid, you go, oh, no, hang on a minute. Box breathing. Okay. Breathe in for 4 and pause and breathe out for 4. And the body's physiology changes and your headspace clears and you get a little bit of clarity. And that's the way we talk, in inverted commas, to the scary, to the bit that's of our brain that's flipping its lid. And that's that. But if you practice it, it's a bit like the concert pianist. They didn't sit down and sort of start playing Rachmaninoff's whatever straight away. They had to learn their arpeggios and their scales, and they started from grade 1 and they worked their way through. So you need to be an expert at remembering, oh, box breathing, that's the one. That's going to help me.
And for somebody who's new at this, as I once was, I was not able, when I started with breath work, I was not able to sustain an inhalation or an exhalation for 4 counts. Yeah. I would get to 2 and be like, what are these people all talking about? What you're supposed to be able to breathe for 4? I don't understand. And, you know, at various points I have stopped and started and stopped and started again. And so, but I will say, the more I practice, the better I get. And I can do, at times, if I'm not like totally, you know, dysregulated, I can do an 8 count in and out now, right? And so that's just to say, for anybody who is struggling with an increased breathing duration, or right,
practice makes perfect.
Yeah, practice makes perfect. You just have to practice. That's all.
And I think the thing is to remember is, if you've heard of the word belly breathing, is we need to breathe deeply. Because I remember when I was in schools and help, the little kids would sit there and I went, no, sweetheart, that's hyperventilating. That's coming from the top, and we need to do it under the belly button. And so it's just teaching people to actually, there are, you know, sort of more parts of us that you know, can sort of find the breath and use it. So it's not just in the sort of chest area, it's right down to the belly as well. So it's just getting a better quality of breath.
Yeah. We could go all day, but we're going to pin it there.
We could. If
people want to know more about you, what should they do?
They can find me on Instagram and Facebook, but caigraham.com. That's CAIGRAHAM. That's my handle. And then caigraham.com is my website, where I've just literally released my second book, which is Fearless and Free. But you can go onto my website and get chapter 1 for free and see if you like the look of it. So,
excellent. Yeah. We will link to that in all of the show notes and things. Yeah. And what a delight to speak with you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. It's been an absolute joy.